Alright, so let's do this again and see how it goes.
Yeah, I haven't even got feedback on the other one yet. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah, we're trying another one when we don't even know how the first one went. Yeah, hopefully someone watches it and finds it interesting, and hopefully. Well, it would be nice if someone comments and say, yes, I like this one better. But yeah, we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
There's also the fear of judgment from being vulnerable.
Yes.
So,
My
your
turn
turn.
for that. Yeah, so last time we explored that aspect of you, we sort of started that with my impressions of you from the outside and then went from that. So I'm wondering if that would be a good starting place
All
for
right.
diving into my subconscious.
We can do that.
Hmm.
I think the key point is to try and figure out the instinct that you're following.
Yeah.
So from the outside,
I want to be a good
I
person.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know about your instincts. From the outside, actually, that part will be interesting because of what you said the other day about discovering the darker part of yourself. So we can get into that, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
From the outside, you seemed in the past like someone without much of a dark side at all.
I didn't want to have a dark
And
side.
yeah, I think that is manifest. Not in a good way. It always seemed a bit weak, to be honest. Um,
I do wonder if that's
you're
part of why the ex got the way she did, in the sense of reacting to the
maybe,
lack of that.
maybe we can get into that because it on another time, I think, because there's some
Yeah.
interesting parallels with my situation and yours there, and then we can like try and differentiate some differences there. But I think that would be a whole topic for another day.
Definitely.
Y- Your your approach to reasoning is interesting. I always found you quite semantic, very, very interested in defining everything and ordering everything.
Fascinated by the nuances. Nuances, sorry.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to say it. You
Yeah.
come across with a similar lack of social regard, but in like the opposite way, where you're just interested in what you're interested in, and you will sort of excitedly explain that to people when getting the opportunity. But you don't seem very interested in what the other person, like changing the other person's beliefs in the way that I do. You're more sort of enjoying the engagement,
Yeah.
like
So
like it's an exercise.
if some, I th- I'm getting the image of, oh, what's it? I like to go somewhere, and if someone wants to follow, then yay. But
Mm.
and that it's a big yay if someone wants to go where I'm going. But I don't want to make anyone do anything.
Yeah, you don't try and argue the point like I used to. You sort of There's a sense of confidence in that, in having your ideas set. Well, not set, I suppose, but knowing that they're outside of the norm and being comfortable with that and not wanting to push it on the norm.
I hadn't thought of that as a source of strength before.
Well, it's an ability to say no because, normal people have those expectations that we mentioned yesterday. And for me, I like, poking at those, but your strength is definitely just going, okay, sure, to those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Like you don't challenge them, but then again, you don't cower to them either.
which in itself is a challenge of a sort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because by not living them or not saying them or not agreeing with them, it is a defiance in a certain sense.
Mm.
You're not in anyone's face about it, but you're not apologizing for being different either.
Mm.
So there is definitely a strength there. Because the weak person just goes, oh, I can't be bothered with social confrontation about being different, so I'll just believe what I'm told.
Mm. I think I found the social niche to fit into of I am a bit of a slightly weird geek, and then people can just sort of dismiss that and leave me alone. Like,
Yeah, I think you play that a little bit.
yeah, it's a bit of a safe place to be socially for me.
I guess that makes sense.
Mm.
I think I do something similar, I suppose, now that I think about it. Although I don't actually want to.
Mm.
I think I'm just sort of in that position whether I like it or not.
I'm just thinking about the roots of the I want to be a good person thing because it's not out of a determination to do good in the world. It's out of a terror of harm in the sense of I deeply feel the damage that can be done, and that's terrifying.
You're afraid of being a monster.
I'm afraid of being the monster that destroys or the monster that harms and that through clumsiness hurts someone. Like the the one who doesn't know their own power, and it's a trope in many movies of some characters got lots of power through something and they they start playing with it, and then someone they love gets hurt, and then that guilt of oh no, I did that, and that was
Do you
exactly the
think
last thing I wanted.
do you think violence is bad inherently?
Logical and emotional, different answers to that. The emotional was an instant bad,
Yeah, that's what I expected.
but at the same time, it's like
Thought.
I'll give a little bit of background on some of the recent developments that you've helped me with.
Mm.
So, where to start with it? I'd been trying to, for reasons of, I think it fundamentally psychologically comes down to I want to be attractive, not in the how I've got a cool hairdo and a nice car, but in the sense of I have value to contribute sense. And so I've been working out what my masculinity is because as far as I can tell that's what attracts femininity. And so you've been helping me understand that, and I've through digging into that I found that I was scared of it for the sorts of reasons that I was just talking about I don't want to accidentally hurt anyone. I wanted to be harmless so that no one would be hurt. But
Mm.
I'd been aware for a long time of a piece of me screaming, and I've not. It's been there for years, and I haven't known what it is. And while trying to work out what masculinity means, it's like okay, here's a term. What the hell does it mean? While trying to work out what that means on a non-spoken level, because you with this sort of stuff, if you can say it, it's not the real thing. Like words, you can talk about, oh, that cut hurt, but pain is a very different concept when you experience it to when you say the words. It's represented, but it is not the same thing. And as I was digging down to find out what masculinity was, I came across like an image of me with a feral predatory grin and sharp teeth, sort of a bit more hairy and caveman like. And it was like, oh, hello, who are you? And it's like that was the image that I saw of my masculinity that had been sort of trapped in a hole and hidden away and buried through interactions with my ex. I think we're trying to ineffectually work out what I needed to be and not wanting to cause anyone harm. It's like, oh, this is dangerous, I need to push it down. But then when I met this part of myself and sort of, okay, come out, let's see, let me be you. And then it was like, oh, power. And like, I could feel strength running down my arms and so on. I was more focused on driving at the time, and I found a sort of that predatory grin coming over my face at the same time, like, I'm out. And it was interesting that just being aware of that, and in trying to accept parts of myself previously, I've parts that got hurt or hurt memories. I've tried it by just mentally hugging that part. It's like, it's okay. You're okay. With this part, it's like, yeah, nah. It's like, let's have a friendly fist fight. Was the image, was the feeling that I got for that. So I played that out in my head, and then that sort of ended with, think of two mates who've been wrestling and fighting and competing. Like the image I got of what this part of myself would do was like knocked down, grins up with blood dripping out of his mouth and the teeth red from the blood, spits it out and gets up with joy is the wrong term, but like that predatory will to fight. And when walking my son to school, just sort of having this part in the back of my mind to sort of acclimatise to it and incorporate it, the it's not very articulate. It's like other parts of myself are far more articulate, where this one, rather than demanding to be free, it was just screaming. And like it would grunt with a meaning or something every now and again. It's not an articulate part of me. At least in that state when it was trapped, it wasn't. But then, while walking my son to school, I will protect all of them about the kids, and that was a bit revelatory, a bit of a revelation to me. It wasn't I will try or I will do my best. It was I will protect them. I will protect those that need protecting, and
it will be done.
Yeah. And if that means that I am the shield who then falls down dead afterwards, then meh. And that's still new to me, but I'm trying to integrate that. But the idea that that danger in an emotional sense can be so protective like that. Like it's not fully processed. It's still a bit I'm coming to terms with it, but the concept of it's directed danger. It's not just danger like a bomb, it's danger like a gun, which it's very dangerous to the animal you're hunting, but to your family it is salvation because it brings them food. It's like you've got a hammer or a soldering iron, a screwdriver. It's like these are directed strength, directed energy, a car, whatever. It's like there's a lot of power there.
Controlled.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that aspect of myself, the idea of that aspect of myself being uncontrolled is terrifying. It's scary. It's like, what would I do? Who would I be? And part of that, I think, is Well, that's part of why I am scared of touching alcohol. Is I don't want to be someone I don't like. I don't
Hmm.
want to risk
Well,
losing myself, and
I
yeah.
don't think you're in that danger anymore because you've started to interact with it. The position that you were in before, where it was hidden away and you were pretending like you were a harmless creature, trying to be one, that's the recipe that allows it to come out unchecked.
Mm,
But now that you're bringing it up, you're making deals with it, however you would like to describe it. Now it becomes under your control, and you can use that strength to resist evil temptations or evil people.
yeah. It was interesting this morning. I was doing a parent help day at my son's school to help him settle in. He's 5, it's all new to him. Um, and I was helping the kids there and ended up with a group of them playing around with me. And there were a couple of girls who. Oh, there was one girl who seemed to be just comfortable pushing right up against me, not shoving, but she wanted to be really close to me. And I sort of had my arms by my sides and I was doing things in front of me. And so I wasn't reaching out for interaction, but I wasn't pushing anyone away either. It's like if they want to come closer, okay, that's them wanting to be close. And at one point there were 2 girls who were, and a boy was doing it too, but the game was to tap me on the shoulder, and then sometimes I'd turn around, sometimes I'd try and catch the hand that was tapping me on the shoulder, and there was lots of running and or hiding and playing around with that, and the masculine danger was not there in the sense that there was no attempt for it to come out. Like now is not now now is not the time for me, and that's fine. As in the dark side talking. Like now's the time for this, for play and safety. Like the being dangerous doesn't mean you're not safe. Like tamed danger is safe, but tamed danger can be dangerous. Like a police dog with the handler's
It's
family.
protective.
Yeah. Like how many stories of dogs that defend the children of their family from threats. That sort of thing. It's like they've got the teeth and they'll use them, but they. You take the new baby and lie the baby on them, they'll just sit there, scared to move. And yeah, it's quite cute.
I think
But
this is a very positive development for you. I can see it's very fresh in your mind as it's been only the last few days, as far as I know, that this has come about,
yeah, I think it was late last week.
which is good.
Yeah.
I couldn't really begin to go into all the ways that'll help you in your life. And it may be good to go into it a bit deeper and talk about the uncomfortable feelings of it being there and how you talked about it and how you got to negotiate with it.
Hmm.
But I think what might be a good idea is to turn now to why you wanted to do this,
I want to
to
be
what
more.
the feeling behind this is.
I want to. I want to be. I'm trying to understand what that means in the sense of I'm trying to speak from impulse rather than from pre-processing. So I don't necessarily understand everything I say, but
Hmm. So you're trying to manifest the ultimate version of yourself.
yeah,
Okay, so it's a process of doing that.
yeah, like life. You grow. The psyche's plant-like in my vision of it. Like you don't suddenly develop a new part of yourself. You can start growing in a direction, but you're not suddenly there just because you want to be, and you don't suddenly drop off a part of yourself. It's like it burns away. and that can be painful, and you can either resist that until there's a whole lot of dead wood, and then such catastrophe happens in life that you are left with no choice but to abandon all but that which will move forward, and sometimes that can be everything.
There's always a choice.
Yeah.
People will stick to the dead wood sometimes. I think your ex is a good example of that.
Mm.
Someone who needed to burn off but refused because it's difficult, and became an image and
Yes.
nothing else.
Like it, I suspect it's a hypothesis that makes sense that in a past life or two I did that, and that's why I'm scared of accumulating that dead wood. I'm scared of not learning the lesson I need to learn, and so I actively look for them, not out of I want to be better, but like I don't want to be worse. I really don't want to be less than I can be, because then I suffer more stupidly.
Hmm.
And that drives a lot of my self growth. It's the I want to move forwards because to not move is to die. To cease movement is death. And if I keep moving forward, then that movement is revitalizing. And while I can easily look around and list off things that could be better, like the house tidier, vacuumed more often, the dishes done sooner, the washing, the this and that tidied, the so on. It's like more technically competent cooking and so on. It's like, but I'm continuing to move forward. Like I've left the ex when my son was 2, and then moved in with friends who had a boy basically the same age. I stayed there for 2 years. Then I moved into the current place, and I've been here a little over a year. And it's like gradual progress of putting myself together and trying to fight the dragons of memory that had accumulated.
Hmm.
And I got up out of that, and now I'm finding new dragons. Rather than finding the dragons that are hiding in my mind to fight, I'm finding new dragons to go fight, and moving forward along whatever's in front of me. Like, this is what seems to be best at the moment. I don't know what the outcome is, I don't know where I'm going, but it's like, this is what's best at the moment. And I can hope I find someone who would wish to fulfill some level of mother role with Tasman, and there's a lot of unknowns there and hopes, and I've got someone I hope that will happen with, but that's as far as that is at the moment. And
It's
oh,
a big ask,
it is, and I
and
don't want to
she'll
push it on
know
anyone.
that. Well, she also knows that if she is to have a relationship with you, then that's going to happen.
Oh,
She
sorry,
can't have both.
sorry.
Does that speak of the devil?
No, no, that's work wanting to discuss a thing that I'll talk to them later.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be difficult for her because she knows that, you know, regardless of how she feels about you, if she's going to engage with a relationship with you, that entails being a mother to another woman's son. And that's not an easy thing to persuade oneself to do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so some severe patience would be advised,
yeah, yeah. Well,
and you can't hold someone against that
yeah, you
that
can't.
hesitation.
Yeah, it's been
Right.
like a year and a half that I've known her so far, so I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not rushing anything.
testing the waters.
Mm.
And you wouldn't still know her if it wasn't a possibility. Um, so we spoke yesterday with me about when I feel the deepest instinct in my life that I'm doing the right thing. And for me, that was a certain type of conversation or dialogue. And then we walked into that for quite a while. I guess the question to you is when do you get that sense? Almost as if it's a spiritual moment almost. And you feel your whole being engage with the world.
At the moment, the answer that's coming to mind is when I'm doing a thing, when I'm making something, when I'm um, building something, when I'm carving a piece of wood. It's like when I'm. For someone so intellectual, it's very hand focused.
It's surprising, to be honest.
Hmm.
Well,
You know, like I've got my radios, and some fraction of the reason I've been playing with them is so that if, like up north in New Zealand recently, we've had some big floods, and well, a cyclone came down and cut a whole lot of people off from communication, and I want to be able to be the guy who can say, right, I can get us contact. I can contact the world from here with a battery. What do we need to say? And relay the stuff and have tools to fix a few things, and I want to be useful.
being that developed self that is the most useful in the most extreme
Mm.
scenarios. Okay, I think I'll revise my question because
Because that's
it may
fear
be
driven.
convenient for me that it lines up with a conversational thing. Um, but I want to sort of figure out what the most meaningful conversations you have are and
The ones that poke my axioms.
what. Okay, that was a very quick answer.
The ones that
Okay.
find a fault, find a pain in myself, and it's like, this is not right, or not as right as it could be, and here's a path to be better. Here's an error to correct. Here's a way to not be as stupid. Here's a way to not risk failure without being aware of it.
So is that the path that you're taking, or the instinct that you're following that's making you want to do these conversations?
I think so.
It seems to line up pretty well. A weird symbiosis there.
Yeah, you find meaning in showing other people the wider world and showing them their flaws,
Yeah.
and I
I like to poke at the axioms.
yeah, no, I like
And
to have
not
my
just
axioms
for
poked.
others, but for me as well.
Mm.
Hmm. So where do you want to go from here with this conversation? Like we sort of talked most of it out last night, I think,
Mm.
and the first part of this.
I don't know. When I look for where to take it, it's like there's a pile of undifferentiated stuff.
Mm. Well, this episode, whatever you want to call it, is about understanding you, your thought processes, the instincts that you're following in these conversations.
Um,
So does anything jump to mind that you think would be
there's something trying to come out or trying to phrase itself.
all right?
So
Follow that.
there's a sense of charge. Like think of someone charging towards a goal, right?
Mm.
That whether that goal is the light on the hill, whether that goal I'm charging toward is my own failings. It's like a sense of desperation of need to be better. Like
How? Sorry.
when I
You
was
go.
younger, oh, Mum was Catholic when I was young. Disillusionment happened and that faded out, but went to the Catholic church with her. Um, Ended up being an altar boy for a while. Um, on the other hand, Dad was sort of solidly agnostic, and my brother's more toward militant atheist. Not in the demanding way, but in the it is this obviously. I can't understand other, and yeah, and uh, am I running away from my faults or toward them? Like, there's a
Could be
desperation to be
both.
better. Yeah, a desperation to be good enough.
For who?
That was what I was asking. Um,
Whose love do you require?
Maybe that is what I require. It's like good enough for the feminine, good enough to be
Mm.
loved in that sense. And it seems,
To be loved.
yeah, it seems a little bit trite. Is that a term or a bit oh
Don't know that word.
yeah a bit comical, a bit well, of course it is. Well, in the
Oh, cliche.
that's the term. Yeah, it seems a bit cliche, but at the
Well,
same time, the cliche comes from somewhere.
it seems that way because it's so overplayed in the stories we read, but it is done that way because it is very significant. And I think women have the same version of this of fearing not being good enough for the male. We all want to be loved at the end of the day. And I remember going through some rough years on that issue. I won't go into that because this one's about understanding you, but I remember it very well, and it's not an easy thing to deal with for a man, and for anyone, I suppose. Hmm.
I'm getting that I want to speak what's on my mind and not necessarily, no, not be agreed with, but be heard and accepted. Like what's on my mind, what I think, my opinions
Valued.
change, but yet have those opinions valued, even if they're
Mm.
wrong. Not in the sense of
Yeah.
I, yeah, well, yes, in a sense of I support you no matter what. Like I get opinions. I have a tendency to agree with the last thing I heard, and
I think what you want is someone not to eye roll at you, to actually listen.
yeah, yeah, and point out where there's things I get wrong, and
Mm.
point out where they disagree. Yeah, sure, but like,
You want this to be a woman.
yeah, there's other more physical aspects to that. Like a mate like you can help, but there's parts that even in a non-recorded conversation with you that don't feel stuff that can only come out in the bedroom lying on pillows. Yeah,
Mm.
and there's
Yeah, I think there is something. I don't even think women particularly understand this about men, but there is certain conversations that can only be had with women for men. And it is about the most vulnerable parts of ourselves. Like this exercise of vulnerability and sharing and all that, there's a limit.
mm,
We wouldn't be able to share everything.
yeah,
You know, if I've had therapists or whatever in the past or needed to speak to someone, I wasn't going to speak to a man about it.
Mm.
Because
Yeah. Like there's with all the stuff about whatever wave of feminism we're on at the moment, the latest version of it, the the drive to by many to say I don't need a man, I don't need anything, I'm as good as a man. It's like, well, you're kind of missing the point. Is um, ice cream as good as cake?
I
They're
don't
not the
think it's just
same.
the latest wave. Like my grandmother is a boomer,
Mm.
and she was part of the early feminist movements, and that was her ethic.
Mm.
She will be one of the originators of that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think
That
there's.
the best thing that a woman could be is a pale imitation of a man. Um, I think we're getting off track though.
Mm.
I want to get into that.
Yeah. But there's a value there that I can't
Mm.
do, that I can't be. There's something, and it's been pushed down and denied almost, and it's like there's something unacknowledged there, and why is this
About women.
significant to me? Why is this meaningful to me? I want to
Um,
find
is
that.
uh,
I want to
is
bring
this
that up.
about
I want to
that relationship with a partner?
that relationship with
Is
a
it is
partner, but also the there's a value there that's not appreciated, and
divine feminine?
yeah, that I hope to find someone open enough to that idea that I can talk about it with them and try and help them find that, just as by being with them I would find my own spark, the thing that I can bring most to the world. I want to find someone who will be happy for me to help them find theirs.
Yeah, I think it's a rather depressing thing how uncommon it is to find a woman who is truly wanting to be a woman, to embrace that and to be purely feminine. And I honestly think you could say the same thing about men now. That very few of us actually want to be masculine.
The term is so mixed up in terms of what it means and what it conjures up from different people and how different people
Mm,
apply it. Like there's,
that's right.
it's not just about being strong. It's not just having big muscles. It's not about being grunty and uh, gruff. It's I don't know what it is, and that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know what the ultimate expression is. More particularly,
I
what
don't think you
what mine
will
is.
until you have a partner who is attempting to form the ultimate expression of the feminine. Like I did self-development work for a long time on myself, and I didn't really understand what it is to be a man truly until I had a woman, and to see that difference, and to because most of what it is in relationship to them. We're not islands. We're not, a man on his own without a partner or children isn't really a man. He's playing pretend as the public facing side of it. But to truly embody the instinct, you need the reflection to bounce off of. Might be a
And
way of saying it.
the difference between them is both subtle and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what's the difference between the. Oh, I'm just trying to think of the person who has done something utterly heroic, male or female, doesn't matter, or who's done something extraordinary, and someone who hasn't and can't. Like, you look at them and you interact with them, and they're basically the same, but there's something that is created within the self by the act of heroism. It's not that there was a difference to start with as much. It's that the act the the act of doing is the act of becoming. If you can,
Yes.
that's alchemical in philosophy, but the
They're more than they were before. We've discovered more.
and without
Become
doing
more.
it, without meeting that crucible, like we use the term crucible to describe that kind of in a tough situation, like the crucible of battle. Like it can be phrased a bunch of different ways, but
That's where
meaning
heroes are forged.
yeah, it forges you into something new. Like tough
Mm.
times,
Purify even.
yeah, and it's like that's all alchemical terminology. If you trace it back, I think it feels like it.
I
Like
find my interest in alchemical thinking growing on a daily basis.
in
That's something for
yourself.
another day though.
Yeah, I'll have to send
Yeah,
you some resources.
there's a union there
Hmm.
between psychological and technological development. And we've separated the two of them. And we've ultra developed ourselves technologically and haven't developed ourselves psychologically or spiritually at all.
Hmm.
And I think that's to our utter detriment because we're, the same as we were 1,000 years ago, except we have nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Although 10,000 years ago, what was humanity? It's so far ago that the traces of it have been erased. 100,000 years ago, there were modern
Mm.
humans. Like, were they making a civilization then? Were they sailing the ocean blue? We don't know because the traces are hidden by then. It's like,
There's some evidence, but that's again for another day.
yeah, yeah. But this is an interesting thing to find that because I sort of ascribed the desire for female companionship as a more base instinct in myself, a more just the desire.
Mm.
But it's interesting to find the deep need for the joint work.
Yeah, we're two halves. This is the one big issue that I often argue with people who haven't had kids or don't have partners. It's none of us were meant to be alone. We don't we didn't evolve to be individuals. We evolved to be a family unit because that's how genes pass down. They don't pass down from one individual. They pass down from a partnership and then children. Mother and child are a unit. Husband and wife are a unit. And all three together, or more when you have more kids, they're all interlinked. You can't be the truest manifestation of yourself alone because the truest manifestation of yourself is your part in a community, not a lone visionary.
Oh, I just twigged to something. I was playing with
Mm-hmm.
the idea that there's masculine and feminine in each individual, male or female, but that male tends toward the masculine and female tends toward the feminine. But it's not that. It's that there's the realm of human experience, and if you sort of lined it up according to which whether it's more feminine or masculine or neutral, you'd end up with a lot of stuff in the middle, a bit of stuff that's basically on one end or the other. But it's like the yin yang symbol. If you've got a spark of each on one side, there's that core spark is what is unique to each of the feminine and masculine. And there can be an interplay, like you can stretch over to one side, like a guy can like color design and a woman can like wood carving, and like that's entirely natural. It's two halves that swirl together, and there's a bit of mixing, and there's a little bit of blurring around the middle, but there's
And it's the Tao.
yeah, if it's just you, like I'm a single dad, so I'm sort of reaching over to cover certain areas of the nominally feminine side by necessity because I need to nurture my son. And I can do that. That's fine. But I can't get to that. I can't be the spark on the other side. And I can't
No.
do the things that are way over that side, away from my center, which might not be. My masculine is different
I
to every other masculine. Like, I am
I
me, not someone
think
else. And
I think you also lose some of your side the more you reach over to the other.
spread yourself
You
thin.
can't be you can't be both things at once, exactly.
Hmm.
And the other thing I've really noticed is that a man maybe might slightly feminine and slightly masculine at max, and the same for a woman. But I've noticed that when they get into a relationship, a serious relationship, they start to drift towards their side more. That a woman will become more feminine once in a serious relationship, and a man more masculine. Because they don't have to be both anymore. They have each other. And they gravitate towards what is more natural, I suppose.
The
They feel
nature of.
more comfortable almost. More
Hmm.
comfortable being that way.
Yeah. The nature of
And to
what each is still a mystery to me, and it's also like a negotiation in a sense because
mm,
each union of a man and a woman in a long term relationship will be unique, and the the interplay will and the specialization of each within that relationship will be different. So they'll each take the areas that they're better suited for in a positive relationship. Like there have
yes,
been social
their strengths.
forms in Western relatively recent. Like if we go to 1900s, there were real issues there that were what led to the um, feminist revolution. And to say that it's all one way or the other is wrong, but it's like to say that there were no issues is also wrong. There are always things that could be improved, and we need to always keep an eye out for what's turning pathological in our societies.
Any
And
form of totalitarian claim
mm,
or totality claim. A thing
yeah,
is all one thing, all or another, and there's no negotiation.
yeah,
That's pathological by nature. You don't get to have that. The image that came up in my mind why I said that was speaking of like the yin yang, where you've got your center on both sides and then your general surround
mm,
and a piece of each in the other.
mm,
In my image, when a person is alone, they're trying to fill the whole symbol. And it's just sort of a blur. There's not much order to it. It's a bit of this and a bit of that, and all in almost not in the right places. But they're
mm,
trying to engage in both sides because they have a desire for both sides. You can't just be, a man idealizes the feminine and has a desire for it. That also means that he has a desire for it within his own soul. And that'll come out in personality expression, I imagine, if a man is on his own. But when you have a partner and you join in a union, it's almost like you start spinning around each other. And the force of that separates you out into more more defined roles.
mm,
Now you still have that centerpiece of the other within, like the yin and the yang symbol, the island. But you're more comfortable on your side of the fence as far as I can see.
mm. There's a relinquishing aspect to it too because it's been misconstrued, and in toxic relationships it certainly can be the idea of an enforced place for each gender within the household.
Mm. Yeah,
That
enforced being the key word.
yeah, but the there's an image or a concept of like, oh, we talk about the feminine side because no, wait, get out of my kitchen type thing. Like, this is, I do
Yeah,
my
I hear
thing
that a
here.
lot.
You're just gonna screw it up. Go away.
Mm.
Which it's like that could be sewing, that could be art, that but there's a space there that is hers, and it's not something. What are you doing in my makeup drawer? It's like she doesn't want him in there, and frankly, if he's got any sense, he well, there might be an area that's shared in their relationship if they both like to play around with it. Okay, whatever works in that relationship, but it's like the guy's got his dirty shed out the back where he
Mm.
builds things and
I think
fixes the stuff, the appliances that broke, and like there's a
I think
relinquishing of yeah.
your reference to the kitchen and then the makeup drawer is actually really on the money there. Because in my mind, the kitchen is sort of one of the blurred points.
Mm.
Um,
Like you can have guys who are chefs who
whereas
would do the cooking in the household, and that
exactly.
can be his
No,
space then.
but what I mean is that no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is you made
Mm.
reference to like makeup drawer or her underwear drawer or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
that's her space. You don't have blurring there. But in a
Mm.
place like the kitchen, it can be shared. It can be more one person's or more the others, or it can be pretty relatively split. But whoever is in doing the thing, it is their space while they're there. You don't interfere with it.
Mm.
When you're embodying a role, you have the authority to embody the role. So if she's in the kitchen and cooking, I come in, I don't get to tell her what to do. She's in charge.
Mm.
But
And the
vice versa. Whoever is embodying whatever role has the authority of that role.
like
But
the
there are some parts of each role that shouldn't be. Like for example, the cooking thing, that is a feminine role. But sometimes I will embody that and do the cooking for a day.
and sometimes it's a partnership. Sometimes it's a you do these, I'll do these, and
Yes, but there is, I would say there's always a person doing the lead in a situation like that. But
yeah.
contrasting that to, you know, makeup or a feminine hygiene things. It's like there's a hard line there, and there should be.
And there's a
There are
big
some
difference
things
between
that
lead and
aren't.
control.
Yes,
Massive.
yes, yeah. There's blur between the two, but there are sacred places as well.
Which are
And
decided
just
on in each
because
relationship.
it's not a final thing. There's always movement there. But as as you build the relationship, is my contention that you notice that you find yourself feeling more comfortable in your traditional role. Like my wife, when we met, she was um, raised to be rather masculine, put it that way. And she has had a really difficult journey actually letting herself be comfortable being feminine. Like she wants to be. And she feels called to, but her family sort of punished that when she was growing up. So it's difficult for her. But over time, she got more and more comfortable with that, and now that's like her favorite thing. She feels comfortable and secure in being able to express herself in her ultimate form, which is defying the expectations of her family or her culture. Now, culture expects us to be mixed, but I think very often our desire is not to be.
I think part
I
of
feel
why
like we've
this
gone a little.
is
Sorry,
this
go
is
go.
part of why this is charged for me is that uh, if my ex um, saw any form of misogyny as she perceived it in me, the response
Masculinity.
was basically violence. And so working that out and working out how to express the positive collaborative forms of sexual dimorphism that we all have, it's
Difficult for you.
it's needed, and I'm looking for someone who is okay to have a conversation there. It's like I don't want to push someone into a box. I don't have a box, but there's a two half interplay here, and to acknowledge that there's a difference here, and that there's I want someone with whom I can work this out because I don't know what it looks like, and I'm surprised at the emotional intensity associated with this. That I
I'm
don't
not.
have an answer, but I want
You were
someone who who wants to look for the answer with me.
you were attacked for trying to embody or express the unique parts of you.
One of the things that caused an issue was I had a close relationship with my parents. I've got no surface resentment to them. It's like I say surface because the mind's complicated. I don't know,
Mm,
but
yeah.
I would often quote things my dad had said and reference that, and that was something that bothered her because she'd had a really toxic relationship with her parents, and so that was then pushed onto me to make me have a toxic relationship with my parents, basically, and
Was it her father in particular?
both.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure which more, but both is the closest I could get. Um,
Mm.
and so that's left me scared to talk about anything in the sphere with someone with a potential romantic interest, right? I don't know what's going to
Uh,
happen with her. It's like there's a lot of stuff, but yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry
but
to tell you, but there's no cheat code around that. Like, it'll be a long, slow, and incredibly painful process. No matter how much she is kind and sympathetic and caring and understanding, it'll still hurt. And it'll still take years.
I don't find that scary. A
Well,
long, slow, painful
what you want,
process.
I think the thing you find, okay, I assume the thing that you find scary is that her not wanting to be patient or understanding about it,
Yeah,
because
it's the
that's what the abusive part of your ex did. No
it's
patience, no understanding, no acceptance.
it's the rejection of the concept itself. It's like having a long, slow, difficult time to find the answer is one thing. Reacting violently that this question must not be asked is a different one.
Hmm. Yeah. It's 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 interesting for me to have this conversation about you and your ex because my wife and I had very similar issues earlier in our relationship, and we managed to fix them and change course. Um, because if we didn't, we would have gone the way that you did. Um, but
Standing ovation on that
hmm,
from in my head, by the way. It's like just standing ovation. Well done for both of you.
yeah, I sort of can't believe that that actually happened. Like, all the props goes to her for making the change, though I did stand by and, take the assault for like 4 years. So there's that too. But Um, I don't think there's anything you could have done differently to make what happened with us more likely for your case. It was her decision to be who she was or to change. And it doesn't matter how much you sacrifice yourself. At the end of the day, if she's not going to make that decision, she's not going to make that decision.
I'm just seeing an interesting thing here that the idea of the guy having some sort of authority in a relationship. Um, any authority. Now, this is a concept and idea that's just arisen, so I want to play with it because I don't understand it yet. And I don't know what's
I
wrong
think
about
it's a
it
good
yet, so
direction to go. I think it's a good direction to go as well for you.
yeah. But it's like it's not something that's taken. If it exists, it is a gift, and it
Yes.
cannot be tyrannical. It cannot be imposed. It's like the task of the
So
protector requires the ability to carry out that role,
it's a
which
relinquishing.
because she judges you worthy.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about these things now because I know you can do them for me, which allows me to relax and not be stressful. And then
Mm.
because of that, I can be more kind and caring and loving
Yeah,
to both you and the children.
there's a thing that I've seen a woman on YouTube who's um, bunch of videos, but some of them were like what men don't understand about women, what women don't understand about men, that sort of thing. And she's quite spiritually aware and connected, so I think that helps. But
One of my favorite topics.
the the what men don't understand about women one was she introduced it by in a room if she's talking to a room of 100 people and asks everyone to put up their hands if they've feared for their lives at some point in their life, every woman will put up their hand and a few men, and the men will be able to say it was this particular thing. It was this particular thing where the car skidded or a thing occurred. It's like this was the event. But for women, it's like every single hand goes up, and it's like yeah, last Tuesday, and it was like okay, how many of you in the last year? Every woman's hand stays up. Most men put their hand down unless the event they're talking about or thinking of actually happened in the last year, and so on until it's like it's evident that like what she was saying and what I it's like wow that's really interesting. I don't trust it entirely because everything is open to correction, but it's like wow that's worth moving forward with as an assumption. It's sure interesting, and I look forward to finding out more about it. But the idea that, for a lot of common sense reasons, to do with being physically weaker, for example, that women are more prone to that. Like you hear a noise behind you, and suddenly you're scared for your life, and then you turn around and it was a cat that knocked something over rather than someone coming to get you, and like that, a guy would
Oh,
jump and look
it's
around
also
in
to do with
annoyance.
children.
Yeah.
It's, yes, a woman may be vulnerable, but an infant is ridiculously vulnerable.
Mm.
And women didn't evolve to be women, they evolved to be mothers.
And men evolved to be the one that charges at the bear
We
to
evolved to be
protect the
fathers.
infant.
Yeah.
And like the caveman in me that I found trapped in a hole, it's like he's the one who would charge at the bear yelling and try and lead it away. And it's like if he
Yeah.
dies, he doesn't care at that point because the the goal is not his survival, it's the safety of others. And like that dynamic of how men and women fill two halves of something is has been lost on so many people, and I just want to be able to explore that idea. And I'm really surprised about how deep this one's going for me. Because it's something I've
Really?
spent a reasonable amount of time thinking about, but it's like there's a difference between, oh, this is interesting, versus this hits to my core, and
Why wouldn't it hit to your core?
because I
Like this is
intellectualize
about
everything and don't expect.
this is about the deepest meaning in life, which is the relationship with a life partner and the raising of children. Like I know modern people don't like to hear that, but like that's the point of your life. That's where all of your meaning, your most significant memories, relationships comes from. That's it. And the marriage, the relationship between the man and the woman is the foundation of that.
Like, there's a reason I have a queen bed in case.
Yeah.
It's also helpful when
Well,
Tasman
yeah.
calls in the morning, and so I
Like I
don't
don't
get
think that there's
picked out. But
much that could strike deeper at your core than that. Literally. Like what else is there that could strike even deeper than that? Like maybe the logo stuff, but then it's still maybe.
that's abstracted, and it's more significant to
Uh,
the upper layers of the mind, but this comes all the way from the bottom.
yeah, I'd say this is deeper, but I think
Yeah.
there is actually a real depth to the logos thing when you get to understand it a bit more.
I think the
If it's
threads.
still an abstract thing, then I don't think you've quite grasped the way that it interacts with the world
It's
and
like
how real it can get in dark places.
I've just
But
got
that's
an image
beside the
of
point.
the thread of relationship of interplay between masculine and feminine, and that thread goes right from the bottom all the way to the top of where we can perceive it, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I'm not saying
Well,
that
yeah,
there's not some grand spiritual unity where it sort of merges with the rest further up beyond where we can perceive it, but the logos is coming down and the masculine and feminine are coming up, and that interplay, it's like one within the
I like that.
other, like the
I like that imagery. It reminds me of the chakras from the base and from the top. The the deep natural energy and then the light from above. You also got to remember that like we've had two sexes since we were single-celled organisms, or since the day we weren't. I don't think there's anything that's more deep in in biology than that.
and trying to pretend it's not. It's like, okay,
So
you do
yeah,
your shouting, you do your thing. The results of your actions will be what they will be. I will do me over here.
yeah, like there's been two distinct versions for a very long time, and they're equally as valuable, evolutionary speaking. That there is no preference for one over the other.
I think the way that the masculine worships the feminine is underplayed or underknown. Like, it's there's something there that's big and mysterious, and
Hmm, that's interesting. What makes you say that?
which aspect of it?
Like, do you not, is it a not understanding?
I'm talking about from
I'm
the
confused
wider
about
culture, I
what you
guess.
mean.
Um,
Ah,
so I've
yeah, that's
definitely.
not something that we like to acknowledge in our culture. But it's the same for the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to remember that that women do worship the idea of an ideal man, just same as the way that men worship the idea of an ideal woman. Both ways. And each will think the other is greater than they are, not lesser. You get into a relationship with someone and you think, wow, this person's far out of my league. Nothing, they think the same thing about you.
Because if you have 9 out of 10 ingredients you need to make a cake, the most important one is the one you don't have.
I guess maybe. I don't know. I have some form of issue with that statement, but I don't know what it is.
But it's
Seems
back to the yang
derisive.
symbol. You can do most of the stuff in the space of things you can do, but you're missing that spark on the far edge of it.
It seems too selfish, a statement.
Hmm.
Too much about you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a rejoining, a spiritual union. I don't know. I think if we keep going down this road, we're going to very, very quickly wander into metaphysics.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I think that's where it is. I think there's something truly divine about the union of a man and a woman, and about the creation of more life.
It's often I feel like people think about it as the obvious. Like if you take the biblical passages, people talk about it in the obvious physical sense, and then that's been very much cheapened these days. But that's missing the point. It's the spiritual, psychological interplay, relationship, team. That's the
Mm.
important thing.
Yeah, I think the destruction of marriage is is single-handedly the worst thing that the Western culture's ever done, beyond a doubt. And we're paying for it pretty dearly, and we're likely to collapse as a society because of it.
I feel like parts of me are pathetically desperate for that connection.
It's the foundation of the entire human world, that union. And the selfish Western culture, which is all about me, cannot accept that the greatest part about life is loving someone else more than you do yourself.
Mm.
Can't have it. It can't all be about someone else. More particularly with children. I don't believe you're an adult until you've had a child. And I don't believe you're a man until you've married a woman, or vice versa. We're not who we are in some perfect, standalone, unique, special sense. To define who we are in the relationships, those that we love. And we're defined by them, not by us.
I'm just thinking
It's
that
not about us.
to get that right is not the sort of thing that you get right on the first try, and it makes sense with my own personal view of reincarnation. It's just lining up with that it takes a few
Well,
attempts to get that right.
even in life, even if you only have one partner like I have,
Hmm.
you still don't get it right in the first try. It takes many tries and many years to get it right. And
Hmm.
even then, it's a work in progress.
There's something
And
beautiful
I
about
think for
works in
you,
progress like that.
yeah, I think for you, something very important to remember is that you can't get it right by thinking it through.
As much as I would wish I could.
Yeah, you won't be able to plan it. You can't plan it. It's not how it works. You just have to be and listen very carefully, and don't try and think that you can think your way out of it.
Because I know that I'm going to screw up in. I'm going to do things that are screw ups. I hope they're not catastrophic, and I will put great effort into making sure they're not catastrophic, but I know I'll do something that counts as a screw up at some point. And.
Whether it's catastrophic or not depends on your actions after.
Mm,
I guess there are some that are completely catastrophic or in the first place, but we all know what those are.
mm, don't cheat.
It, it's that's effectively the rule. Stand with loyalty. to your partner above everyone else. You don't talk bad about them. You don't make jokes about them. You don't deride them in front of other people. And you don't betray their trust.
Mm.
Many things are forgivable, but some are not.
Mm. I guess
Where do we go from here?
I'm
Should close
also
this out.
hoping that, yeah, I think we're pretty near closing it out, and I need to start getting ready to pick the little man up from school soon. But
Yeah.
that's another thing that scares and worries me because the ex was not big on forgiveness, shall we say.
Well, she's a psychopath.
Yeah, and so
I
that
know you're
scares me.
uncomfortable with that, but I truly believe that.
Yeah, I don't like
Sadistic,
to
psychopathic.
think the
Um,
worst of anyone, which I know I'm, by that
I know,
inclination, I will
yeah.
tend towards thinking the best of people where that's better than they actually are. That era is more
Okay,
emotionally comfortable
okay.
for me, but
If I'm going to be giving the devil its due here, I'm going to make the analogy due to my wife and what she was, not what she is now. She'll be a dual personality. Your partner, your ex.
hmm,
Half of her will be, say, the angelic part, if you like, the true part, the part that has value that you liked. And then the other half will be the dark tetrad part, the manipulative, impulsive, psychopathic sadist. Should be both.
hmm,
And in her good moments, she'll be the good part, but when she's stressed or unstable, then the bad part comes out.
yep,
And the decision that my wife made, which I still don't quite understand how she did, she got herself under control to the point where the bad part doesn't come out anymore.
that
To
makes a lot
where
of
we've had
sense.
some serious, serious trouble since then, and she has not reverted. Even when I've been way out of line, she's been kind and understanding, which is amazing to me, being what she was. And it's a choice. Am I going to be this person or not? Is it okay what I'm doing to this person or not? And that's the fundamental part of it. She did what she did to you because she enjoyed it, and she did it knowing exactly what she was doing to you. It wasn't ignorance, it wasn't a lack of control. It was a choice to hurt you on purpose.
Hmm. That dual
And she
aspect
never
you talked
strayed from that
about
choice.
makes a lot of sense because she was a very two-sided person
Yeah.
in many
It's just that the
ways.
good side never got the upper hand, or she didn't let it. She wasn't willing to let go of the bad.
Hmm.
There's an integration there. It's like you're seeing, like you were talking about with your shadow side, you're seeing her normal side and her shadow side manifest physically,
Hmm.
not joined. And the joining of them is actually bringing the shadow side under the control of the good. Like you were attempting to do. Except with men, our stress tolerance is just a lot higher, like you mentioned with the threat of the feeling threatened, feeling
Hmm.
like life is threatened. My belief is that if you were put in a sufficiently stressed scenario, say a life-threatening one, then your shadow would come out to take control of you and act because you hadn't previously integrated it at all.
Well, what
And
happened
that's
when
where the
I
saying of the weak men do the damages comes from.
hmm, yeah, what I found happened when I was at my most stressed was that I would lash out at myself using the tools of the surroundings in the sense of headbutting a wall or something.
Yeah, it's what you. I think men don't experience the kind of stress required to bring out that side of them unless they're in a violent situation.
Hmm.
and then are often traumatized by what they did to the other person
Mm.
when they thought they were, harmless, like you used to think or wanted to be.
I'm glad
Well, I
that I
think
never broke to the
huh?
point of lashing out at her. It's like the most was holding her to prevent her lashing out at me, which, while not gentle,
Yeah,
was never intended to harm.
yeah, I understand that.
Mm. Oh, if my crush
Well, I
listens to
want to
this,
close it out.
this it's going to be interesting to hear her response.
It'll be funny. Before we close out, I have one more question.
Yep.
Seeing as we're on this topic, I want to know what happened on the day that it ended with your ex-wife.
Oh, there'd been a lead up. So,
There always
um,
is.
she'd decided she wanted to go on a trip for the wedding anniversary. It was the second. It was basically 2 years since we got married, and I'd been. Oh, no, it started before that because we went on a trip with friends, the friends who we met through,
Mm.
and they had their son, and I had Tasman. Yeah, I had my son um, going in the car up to a place some distance away, and my ex had. She came up by bus a few days later, and the friend could see how, as soon as she arrived, my stress levels went through the roof, and so I got to see just me and my son, and then add her into the mix, and then take her away again because she took a bus back, and then I went back with the friends, with both the kids in their car, and that helped to crystallize the, yeah, I gotta go. This ain't gonna.
Mm.
I can't stay here. And then there was the trip that was sort of a wedding anniversary trip, and then she'd um, she found out as we were heading back from that I'd been thinking this, and her response was rant and shout for a while, and we were walking through a nature walk, a patch of bush that was on the way back along here, and she started shouting about this, and there was a group of tourists or something who'd walked past us, and she ranted at them how I'd been thinking this on the wedding anniversary, and rant out, and we get back to the car, and she demands I sit still and let her hit me, and it's like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then she flipped to apparent acceptance, and then that flipped back and forward to pleading, and it's like the fact that I'd said no, I don't want to do this anymore, after she'd threatened divorce on many occasions, and I'd hung on and hung on and hung on and pleaded and begged and for hours and hours on end and so on many past occasions, but this time I'd just like no, and then there were encouragements to hang on for just a bit and see if they could convince her to change from people in her church, and then the day that it finally snapped, which was the day after Valentine's Day, um, I was there with my son and her, and we were hanging up washing, and she was um, she'd got back into a rant about this stuff, and then I snapped and sort of screamed in her face. I think I threw a t-shirt at her, grabbed my son and ran, and called up the friends, and they came, picked me and my son up, and we slept on a couch, and then got back, went back when I knew she wouldn't be there to pick up some clothes the next day, and then in a month or so, a room at their place opened up because the boarder that they had moved out. There were, yeah, for reasons. And so then I had a room, and my son was sleeping with their son in that room, and then lived there for the next couple of years while I worked out who I was again and talked to a therapist, tried to sort of work out, can I trust my parents? Because how much of this was what she'd said and so on, and how much of it was actually issues between them and me, and it's all good again with them now, but it was like, yeah, spend a couple of years putting things together. It's like, it was the year when all the lockdowns happened, so that was interesting too. But yeah, it helped that sort of not long after that happened, and then I quit the job a week before the lockdowns were announced. So how's that for 2 weeks' notice? Um,
Fair
and
timing.
yeah, so then yeah, put life together for a year, get a job, um, sole parent benefit, so I have the space to work things out, and then go get a place for myself and him uh, just over a year ago, and now he's starting school just down the road, and yeah, everyone says he's doing fine, and that's very reassuring because like, everyone who should have an idea if there were any issues says he's doing perfectly fine. They've got no concerns at all. Like he's been at the same preschool since he was one, so they knew him well and said they had no concerns. And um, yeah, now I have a hope for a better relationship, which we'll see how that goes. But oh yeah,
Well,
working up the courage
one,
to broach issues that I fear could be, or that I have experienced being hot button blow up issues, working up the courage to approach those and talk about them.
well, you have to.
Yes.
One
Yeah.
thing, one advantage out of all this is that you know warning signs now.
Yeah. Having a line where I can
Any,
say this and this is acceptable and this is not.
yeah, and effectively that is the behaviour. The not acceptable is the behaviour that you've experienced from your ex.
Hmm. And she'll have her own
Did
side of
she
the
have an
story.
opportunity? Did she have an opportunity to change right at the end? Did you give her any form of ultimatum?
There was probably a couple of weeks where she'd talked to people in her church because that was the only form of counselling that she would accept. Um, they, the idea of me going to any form of therapy was not okay in her head
Of course.
because she said that therapists just facilitate divorces. But yeah, um, they'd told her what she needed to do, which was basically back off from me and let me work it out on my own because I wasn't a member of the church. I hadn't signed up for their beliefs and commitments. I'd committed to marriage, but frankly, she'd violated the rules of that, so that put the ball in my court. And they were saying, give him time, it's like step back, we'll work on this. And she did not do that. She kept demanding an answer, and she made her choice to act that way, and things fell out the way they did.
Mm, that makes sense.
I have my
Well,
doubts she'll
I
ever
think.
hear this, but
Ha,
effort.
no, she won't. Well. So she won't. She would only listen this. She would only ever listen to this to have more ammunition to attack you with.
Yeah, yeah. Block calls. If only I could just cut off entirely because I have to keep contact because she has rights to chat to her son.
And she signed those away.
Nothing has been signed. Well, the divorce papers were signed. I've got custody. And she
Yeah, that's
never
her.
contested that in any way. It's like when the split first happened and it was a case of Wynn's asking her how much care of him she has, it's like none. He's and they ask it in terms of how many nights does the child spend with you versus the other, and it's like, yeah, it's all with me, not her. And
Okay, I
she,
understand that you're thinking she has some right to see him and he has some right to see her, and that you want to keep that open. But you do need to be careful because she will be nothing but a negative influence on your life and your son's.
I
And
fear him
the
not.
nice thing
Yeah,
of like having that interaction available might not be actually that good.
I
It's a
think with
complicated one, and I'm not saying that there's any real answer, but I think it's worth considering the other perspective.
yeah, I think that if I had a partner who chose to step up into that role, then cutting the X off entirely would be easier to justify.
To yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not in that role already. The only interactions she has are hostile ones, as far as I am aware.
Well, no. Yesterday she wanted to. She'd asked to have a video call with him because she's now in another city, and she was checking up on his welfare, checking that he's doing okay, and
Well, maybe the good part of her. I only say that because the last time you described her coming around to visit him, she just came there to torture you, quite literally. So,
I think given the opportunity, she'd probably take that. But if it's just a call, then it's about him. I can just not talk about anything else, and
yeah,
I don't know what the answer
you
is
need
though.
it to be
I
you
don't
need
know
it to
what.
be in a position where you have the authority to say no,
Yeah,
but choose to say yes.
yeah,
You need to be able to say, no, you can't come around, no, you can't talk to him, whatever, when she asks. But then still let it happen for that sake.
yeah,
Because otherwise that's an angle for her to manipulate and to do damage, which she will. It's just a matter of time based on the characteristics. It's a rough situation you got yourself in, and I can see why you want to do these kinds of conversations to try and develop yourself and work through these problems and hopefully have some value not only to yourself but to others about it as well.
yeah. The idea of learning from past lessons to suffer less stupidly. I said yes. I would very much like to suffer less stupidly.
Yeah, and hopefully some people can find some value in your working through problems at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Hi to everyone I've bared my soul to.
Yeah, I wonder if your crush is here.
If anything ends up happening, I'll probably point her to this as a. You might find this worth listening to.
Yeah, send her this when you're married. Uh,
I was thinking
I know,
before
I'm
then,
ambitious.
but
I
yeah,
know, I know. I'm being extra hopeful. Um, If you are listening, I only said that because I'm religious. Don't blame him. Uh,
Oh, the idea
there's so
of
much more I could say there, but I don't actually want to make those jokes now because I'm worried that she might be listening.
yeah, yeah, it's like the
Mm.
the question of whether the relative values of living together or sleeping together before marriage,
Yeah,
like
don't.
yeah, that's a thing that I look at. It's like I don't know. I want to think it all out and work it all out in advance, but I look at it and like, yeah, I'm half the picture on this. I can't work
Yeah,
this out
do
as much as I'd wish to.
do dates. Go traditional. Do formal dates where you have romantic interaction without living together or sleeping together. And do that for as long as you can until you and her are sure. And then make it formal. Once you get engaged, then, then you can consider doing those other things. But at that point, you might as well wait to the day and make it something special anyway. You went about it the wrong way with your previous partner. And I'm not saying this is the cause of all your issues. For sure, it's not. But I think you have an opportunity to try and do everything right.
Yeah, I was like 21, 22 in uni. It's like
I did everything wrong.
stupid mistakes when you're that age is kind of the prerogative. But
Yeah,
then
well,
you
you're not
learn
that
from them
anymore.
and say, yes, I think I will do better.
Like if I could redo the mistakes that I made, there are some massive regrets that I have. And if you think this woman might be the one that you want to be with, do not make any mistakes again. Do it right. And I know that's a high bar, but if
Well, it's
she
certainly
is
the
truly
aim.
that person, well, if she is that person, then that's the respect that it deserves. And she
I,
will
I agree
feel
totally.
nothing but honored by it.
Yeah,
She'll
I
be
agree
honored by
totally.
that.
Yeah. One thing I do know is I'd be kicking myself just as hard as her or anyone else for mistakes because
Yeah.
I don't
Get the
spare self
proposal right.
criticism.
I fucked that one. And I really regret it.
Oh, the ex. We'd slept together, and so that had screwed her up in her church's eyes because they're very much one for life only ever. And so I'd been trying to fulfill obligations and responsibilities and so on, and oh, yeah, it was a big mess. Yeah,
Yeah.
she,
I take the time, do it right, be
yeah,
romantic, and engage properly. Propose. Anyway, we've been ranting about this for enough. I think we should wind it down.
yes, fair
We
enough.
went into lots of different directions with trying to understand you better.
Yeah, I
I
hope
feel
it
like it
was
was harder
valuable.
than my one, but I think we got a lot of interesting things. And I'm hoping that that's enough.
It's made easier by the terror of screwing up again and wanting to not do that, and so it's like hard lessons to learn. Oh, show me, show me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, help as much as I can. Um, though I don't like presuming that I can actually do that. I'm doing my best to be a humble person, which is difficult from when you remember what I was like in Christchurch. Mm.
I didn't know you well enough to judge back then. Anyway, yeah, we should wrap
I
up and
don't I don't think I came across as humble.
no,
No.
that wasn't the impression.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at that quite a bit. Regardless, I think that was a good chat.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot more that we can go into next week with that.
don't judge yourself
But I'll,
by your faults now. Judge yourself by how far you've come.
yeah, and keep aiming up.
That's the
I'll
big
let
one.
you go and get your son
Yep. Oh well.
and do your fatherly duties.
Yep. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyone who's listening, thanks and bye.
See you around.